Hello my friends all over the world. William Poloniak here again at Whole Health Foundation, and today I'm making a juice with two of my favorite greens, Dandelion and French sorrel, and I'm going to add about 7 or 8 cucumbers, which helps cool you down. You've heard the phrase cool as a cucumber, and today in sunny Southern California it's over 80 degrees, so I want to make something that's cool and refreshing. Let's look at the rest of my ingredients. Well, as you can see, I have my dandelion and my French sorrel. I have about 8 cucumbers, a couple of zucchinis, 100 grams of ginger, 100 grams of turmeric, garlic, 1 avocado pit, and a few tomatoes to throw in for good measure. So let's make some juice. Now before I begin, I want to point out that I'm using the front-loading feed tube and the near zero blowback cutter. The near zero blowback cutter has about 80 teeth cut into the 5 blades, and that minimizes your temperature and lowers it to 4 degrees Fahrenheit cooler. So that's a definite plus. And on the feed tube there's no blowback, because if you do get blowback, it'll bounce back and forth off the angle and at worst might spit out a few inches. So let's install the near zero blowback cutter. And the first thing I'm going to do is tighten the wing nuts and plug in the thermometer, and then put about 3 or 4 ice cubes through the feed tube to cool down the cutter. It's a very hot and humid day, and I want the cutter and feed tube to be as cold as possible. The first thing I'm going to do is shred my greens. I'll start with the French sorrel, and even though the cutter does shred much better when it has teeth, I'm putting a small quantity of greens in. A little more French sorrel. I'll put in the rest of my turmeric. Put in some dandelion. Now whenever you're doing greens, you're going to have to add ice cubes, because the cutter and feed tube tend to get hot when you shred greens. So 3 or 4 more ice cubes. More dandelion greens. Put in the rest of my dandelion greens and follow that by ginger. Sorrel. More cucumber. Now I can tell my motor's working hard, so I'm going to clean the grid again. Scraping it on both sides, and assemble and continue. And here's the last of my French sorrel. I think this is too thick. Oh, just made it. More zucchini. That's a little too thick, so we'll cut it in half. that grid again, scraping on both sides. And because we're over 20 degrees, I'm going to feed in more ice cubes. More zucchini, and then we'll follow that by carrots. Put in a few carrots. Now after a couple of carrots, I'm going to clean my grid. And I want to point one thing out. For greens, I usually use the J grid, which has 3/16-inch holes. But because of that cutter with teeth, I've been using the number 2 grid, 1/8-inch holes, and it didn't seem to make much difference. And 1/8-inch holes will shred the produce better. And that's the one I use for carrots. So we'll continue now with carrots. You usually put in 2 or 3 carrots at once when they're small. Now here's a little tip for you. With the front-loading feed tube, sometimes you have a little puddling at the front here. What I do is push the carrots through without the pusher and allow some pulp to come up, and pulp from carrots absorbs liquid very, very well. So let's do that. Notice how carrots absorbs all that liquid at the bottom. Carrot is an amazing vegetable. Okay, here's the last of my carrots. About this front-loading feed tube, as you can see in here, and even if you can't see unshredded produce, there's usually a plug down below that's not shredded. So what I'm going to do is put a couple fingers full of pulp in the feed tube and push that last plug through. Okay, before I mix my produce, I want to point out that you never leave the cutter on the juicer. Always take it off, put a light film of oil on the shaft and inside, but leave it upside down so that any water in there drains out, and leave it on top of the juicer. Now we'll mix my produce. I have found that rotating the bowl in both directions makes for a very good homogeneous mix. And when I get this all thoroughly mixed, we'll put it in cloths and press some juice. You notice how the rubber gloves, these are non-latex gloves, they help to clean. I would never make juice without gloves on. I wouldn't want to get that juice underneath my fingernails. So let's now get some cloths and make some juice. Now take my cloths out of the freezer, crack the ice to loosen them up on the edge of the table, and peel them apart, and then start filling them to make some juice. Now I'm going to put 3 large ladlefuls of pulp in each cloth, approximately a cup to a cup and a half of pulp. Fold the cloths over in thirds just like they came in the package. A little crease at the back to enable your folding, and pull it into as tight a package as you can make. The tighter the better. And I'm setting this aside, and I'm going to press 2 packets at once because you get better pressure that way and it releases more juice. And later, I'm going to show you how I can get 10% more juice using the Whole Health Foundation Premium Model Juicer. Now these first 2 cloths go into the press, centered left to right. This is very important. Centered front to back, adjusted if need be, all the way back, and back it off a little bit. Turn on the machine and continue folding cloths. Now when I'm on my last cloth, I'm going to advance that all the way. And here's my 6-cloth less work method. This goes over, that folds over, a little crease at the back to enable the folding. Pull it into a tight package. The tighter the better. Now this goes forward, that goes over. The spent cloths go on top. And we continue in this rhythm until we're done. Centered left to right, centered front to back, adjust it if need be, all the way back, back it off a little bit. And we'll continue. Now it's very important not to throw away this spent pulp. What you do is you put 2 scoops, not 3, on top of the spent pulp. Okay, now the spent cloths go on top, 2 more cloths go inside, all the way back, back it off a little bit. Now my bowl is almost full, so we may have to stop this midway and put it into some bottles. Yeah, we're gonna have to do that. So let's turn the machine off. Now another thing you can do when you have puddling in the bowl is take the spent pulp, crush it up, put it into the puddle to absorb that juice, and go back to 3 scoops in the cloth. But let's, after we do this one cloth with 3 scoops, let's fill some bottles. Nice tight package as before. We'll fill this one up as well. This time we're just going to put 2 scoops on top. And we'll fill some bottles. I'm getting close to the last of my pulp, so I'm going to put 1 heaping spoon on top of this patty because they're getting very, very thick. And when I'm on my last cloth, I'll advance that a little bit more. And again, 1 scoop. Before I finish folding, I'll advance that all the way. And again, my less work 6 cloth method. This goes forward, that goes over. The spent cloths go on top. 2 more cloths full of pulp in the press. Centered left to right, centered front to back, all the way back, and back it off a little bit. And again, 1 scoop on top. Spatula for the rest of this out of this precious pulp here, most of which I grew in my garden. Now while my last 2 cloths are pressing, I'm going to repackage this spent pulp into a tighter package and press it again using the Whole Health Foundation Premium Juicer that has this solid bottom plate. And we'll fold this into a very, very tight package, and my special folding technique on this start part of the process is to fold it under 2 or 3 or 4 times to minimize slippage, and do that in both directions. And then we'll flatten that, set it aside, advance that all the way, and continue repackaging the spent pulp. Well, my friends, as you can see, I have 3 double packets of repackaged pulp, and what I'm going to do is use a measuring beaker, 20-ounce measuring beaker, to show you how much extra juice we can get when you use the Whole Health Foundation Premium model that has that solid bottom plate. So we're going to put this right in the center, centered front to back, centered left to right, all the way back, and when I get juice flow, I'm going to back it off a little. You could back it off in the beginning and wait. So we'll back it off a little. I want to wait until I get traction here. Advance a little bit more, and then all the way. Now so far we've got 18 ounces of juice, 19. Well, there's 20 ounces and our container's full, so I'm going to have to back that off. And what I'm going to do now is I'll pour this into the collection bowl, an extra 20 ounces, and finish pressing this. That's that all the way. Now we're going to get another couple of ounces out of it. Well, there's another 5 ounces of juice. So by repressing the already pressed pulp, we got another 25 ounces of juice. So let's put this into bottles after we wash the cloths. Now before I fill my bottles, I'm going to press the water out of these cloths, put them in a plastic bag and into the freezer. You can reuse the cloths 3, 4, maybe even 5 or 6 times depending on your produce. Right, these go in a plastic bag and into the freezer. I'm filling these bottles from the back side so that the camera gets a good look, and you'll notice I'm leaving about 10% to top off with filtered water or distilled water. I use distilled water. And it looks like we're going to have about 15 bottles plus enough for a taste test. So we'll top these off with water, cap them, and put them in the refrigerator after we do a taste test. Well, my friends, you can see I have 5, 10, 15 bottles plus enough for a taste test. And remember, 2 of these bottles came from pressing the already spent pulp that most people would throw away. And because of that solid bottom plate on the Whole Health Foundation model juicer, you can leave the press up indefinitely, and that gives you all of these micronutrients, and your best nutrients are in the last 10% of your pressing. So let's do a taste test. Well, my friends, today's formula was very simple. French sorrel for my greens and 1 huge dandelion plant, mostly cucumbers, zucchini, and turmeric and ginger, of course, and garlic, plus carrots. So let's give it a taste. Very tasty. I can taste mostly carrot. There's a little hint of the dandelion, which gives the juice a little bit of a bitter taste, but that's a sign of more minerals. Well, I hope you like what you've seen, my friends. If you do, please tell a friend. If you'd like to call me, my phone number is 760-753-0321. My email address is developtrust@cox.net, and my webpage is wholehealthfound.com. See you in the next video.